Alright guys, today I'm going to do a disassemble reassemble of the Abu Garcia Silver Max, and then this one here is a Gen 3. Alright, so for starters, pull here to the right, twist off your magnetic brake, remove your spool, use a Phillips screwdriver to remove this screw here. A 10mm wrench to remove this nut here. Allow the handle to come off. Just underneath that handle, in between that and your drag star, you have a washer that just came off as I was removing the handle. Remove your drag star. Remove the pieces under that. You have two pieces. Don't be alarmed that they are bent. So you can see there. You have them just about any direction. They're going to be offset. So if they're smooth like that, you see on that side, they're not going to allow you to put them back on just because kind of got a rectangular cut into them. Squared on two ends and kind of an oval on the opposing end. Put that off to the side. So on majority of all your Max series reels, on all your Max series reels, you have 3 screws here. And 1 here. Depending on your generation or model of your Max series Abu Garcia reel, you'll also have a additional one here on the inside. So once again, with your Phillips screwdriver, you're going to remove those 3 screws on this side here. Now this front one on the Max series reels is shorter than all of the other ones, front or underside. Screw that a little bit more. Stuck. Alright, for this one, you just have those 4 screws to remove the cover on this side. It's a small washer here. And this piece here. When you insert that back in, upon reassemble, ensure the squared end is pointed upwards. You can also use the spool tensioner, or I'm sorry, you can also remove the spool tensioner knob. Okay, from here you have the main gear. Pull that off. And I find no need to disassemble this. If it's really bad and dirty, rusty, whatever, then go ahead and remove the washers here. One small one there, the main disc and gasket underneath there. And you have this as well on the bottom end. Alright, remove these springs here. If you grab right here, this whole piece will come out for you, like so. That spring there. Remove that. Wash my hands real quick. I actually recently cleaned this one, so it's got grease and lube on it. Take a Phillips screwdriver. Remove this front cover plate. If you can get a magnetic tip screwdriver, that'll be definitely beneficial. Second one here on this side here. That'll allow you to remove this front cover. Drop that piece out there. Now what you're stuck with is your worm gear here, right there. So what I like to use is a small flathead screwdriver. Flip it over to this side. You have the C-clip here. I like to turn it back towards the spool open position, or spool retaining position. Be in this area here. And you have these little grooves in there. I'll stick the flathead screwdriver in there. Put my thumb in front of it to help try to prevent it from shooting across the table or flying across the room. There we go. Got that piece out. This piece here, guys, I believe in disassemble, reassemble is probably the hardest piece to deal with. Probably the hardest step. Let's see other steps that I go through, like right here I might have a little bit of complications removing it, but that C-clip I would believe is the hardest part for me. So you just want to kind of gently try to pry this up. Sometimes if you're lucky, let's see if we can get it, there we go, to fall out. So on this Gen 3, there's one washer there. I believe it's the Pro Max. There's another Max series that has two washers there. Can't remember which one it was. Okay, at this point here, push this gear here from behind. And let me move the, let's rotate this a little bit. Let's get the line guide out of the way to give me some more room here to work with. Push that down. I'm holding it back here as well to push the worm gear up to allow me to drop this gear down. And you're going to tap this pin out. Depending on how much grease is already on your reel, will dictate on how hard that is to get out. And if you want, you can use like a needle nose pliers or something to pull it on that end to get it out. Sometimes I can get it to just drop out. Other times I'll have to grab it. One of these days I'll add a needle nose pliers to my tools here to do so, even though I have like 6 or 7 of them downstairs in the toolbox. I don't seem to ever grab them. Of course it's going to give me problems today. There we go. Pull that out. Pull this gear off. Now this step's slightly different in the order you do it. You could have took this off first if you wanted to. The flathead screwdriver. Just stick it in the front cap here. Remove that. Sometimes this small shim will come out with it. Other times it's going to stick to that piece there. Don't want to lose that. I like to just leave it right in the cap. There we go. You just gotta get that piece to fall out there. Whether it falls out, there you go. Looks like that. Once all that's out, this piece here will come off. Pull out the worm gear housing. Pull out your worm gear. You have a bearing there. If you want that out, it'll sometimes just fall out. Or with your worm gear, you can also push it out, or while you're cleaning it, like so. Or while you're cleaning it, you can use a Q-tip to stick in there while you're cleaning out that part. Alright guys, that's as far as I'll disassemble the actual reels for cleaning. Allows you on the inside here, the housing here, clean out that spool area if there's any dirt collecting in here. Any excess grease, dirt, whatever, to clean out of this area as well. As far as cleaning tools I'll use a old toothbrush, Q-tips, pipe cleaner, and sometimes I'll even just use an old dirty rag. Alright, let's go ahead and start to do the reassemble now. Now some of this stuff will have to be in a specific orders, and other things not so as much. So from here, I'm going to grab this gear here, and if you can see it, there's a little star-crossed shape in it cut out, or on the opposing end. You can see it does not. You want that star cut out facing upwards. Make sure your bearing is in there. Drop that on. Grab that tiny pin and hope you didn't lose it. Drop that in there. And then you're going to just line it up with the grooves, like so. And place it right in that hole there. It's going to be the only one in that general area that it'll fit through. Grab this piece here, slide that on. Get the worm gear housing all the way across. Make sure it's facing forward and seated in there properly. Now I'm holding it on this end here. You're going to grab this plastic piece here, drop that in like so. You're going to want it to get it to where it seats in there properly. And if you're having some issues with it seating properly, look back to this side and make sure this didn't rotate at all. So with this particular model here, it's got one washer. Stick that on there. Grab that C-clip. Slide it on there. Grab my flathead screwdriver. See, make sure I don't drop it. And spin it around so it'll make me possibly drop it. Alright. So like that. I'm going to use my flathead screwdriver, put my thumb over the top of it just in case to make sure it doesn't fly off somewhere. You're going to press that on. Alright. Well, like I said earlier, that piece there can be somewhat troublesome. You're not going to really go with the flatward angle to push it on. I use somewhat of a slightly angled outward position. So I'm pushing on that C-clip and not also on the washer below, which is obviously not going to move anywhere. Alright, swing back over to this side here and grab this piece. It's going that angle there. If it spins while going in, don't worry about it. You're going to just stick it in there and grab the brass piece here and just kind of spin it until it drops in place. You see how now it's moving freely. Going to grab the cap, make sure your little shim is in there. screw that on there. I'm going to hand screw that on. Once you start feeling friction, alright, there. I'm going to spin this again and make sure it's spinning freely. Tighten a little bit more, make sure it spins freely. If you just crank it on there without ensuring it's seated, you're going to break something. Once you're positive it's in there, grab your flathead screwdriver and tighten her down. It's just plastic, so don't do it too tight. Confirm once again it's moving freely. Alright, you can grab this piece here. You can see the ends there are slightly different. So here's the front of the reel. Find the hole for that. Feed that through. Find the hole on the other side. Seat it in. You're going to keep it slightly at a downward angle so it doesn't fall out. It'll have to be reset. Grab that front cover plate. Slide that on, which is now going to hold that pin in place. Grab your 2 small screws. Drop those in there. Sorry, I'm a little wired. Drinking a Rockstar right now. Hands are a little shaky. Alright, tighten these in there. Not too tight. If you tighten it too much, you can crack this frame right here. Grab the second screw for the other end. Tighten that in, and once again, not too tight. There you go. Place it down like so. So I like to take this piece off, this little sprocket, and put it on first. If you put it on the wrong way and you engage your reel, it's not going to disengage by the direction of this sprocket. So when you look at it, the video you probably won't be able to tell, but if you're doing it on your own, it's flat on one end all the way off to the edges, which is the bottom. If you have it the correct way, these edges are rounded a little. Alright, so I take it off because I want to ensure it sits in this little rectangular cut here, and drop it on. Now, if you have it on upside down, it will still fit. It just won't allow you to disengage your spool once it's completely assembled. So once you drop that on, go like this and it shouldn't move. Alright, we're going to grab this piece now. Drop that in there. Got a little bit of excess grease here, so I'm going to remove it. It's not needed. Okay. Grab these springs, drop those on there. Now grab my main gear, which is going to look like this now that I've taken that sprocket off and already assembled it. Alright, drop that on. Drop this washer back on there. And see, this piece doesn't move, but it's not connected completely. It's not completely reassembled, so don't worry about it. But ensure this main gear is dropped and seated far enough to where it sits level with the other gear itself. Alright. So let's grab this. Drop that in there. Find the hole on the opposing end. That's where that drops and seats. And grab this, making sure that rectangular cut is facing upwards. Grab that washer there. Drop that on. Grab the cover plate. Drop that on. And you see it drops on pretty smoothly. A little spring effect due to the springs in there. If it's not dropping in there smoothly, double check and make sure you got everything in there correctly. Drop your screws in. Remembering the shortest screw here goes up into the front end of this the housing. Oops. Come on. There we go. And tighten them down. And I'm going to go back and torque them down. I didn't tighten them down completely, I just got them all in there. Now I'm going back and I'm torquing them down. Now these don't have to be that tight. Alright, we're going to flip it up and over. And remember that washer's there, so if you want, place your fingers there just to hold it from falling and losing it. Put the last screw in on this end. Now this video here will work on almost any Max series reel. So let's say you're doing one of the other reels and you see you still have a screw on the table. Don't forget, there's also sometimes a screw that'll go in right here to hold this plate on. Alright, so once again, some of the steps I do are, it doesn't really matter what order you do it. I'm going to take the spool, put her in now. Make sure she seats all the way. Grab your magnetic brake cover. Get her on like so. Now coming over to this end. Drop these two washers on. Remember, they should have that slight gap in them. If they don't, just flip one of them over. Okay, now your drag star. We'll see if it happens. This is why I like to put the spool in first. If it happens, I'll show you. Spin your drag star on. Hold the spool. It's still spinning, so this is why I put the spool in first. Engage your spool, put your finger on there, finish putting your drag star all the way back on. Put that on until it gets past this little gap right here in threads. Disengage the spool. Okay, let's see what we're on now. We got a washer here, goes on top of the drag star. Your handle. Your handle retaining nut. We don't crook it. That's why we do hand tighten first, so you don't strip your threads. Also help you to not be drinking an energy drink like I am right now, so your hands aren't all shaky. Use your 10mm wrench. Tighten it on. Once it starts to tighten down, check for the corner edges of the bolt. You want to point it straight towards the actual hole here. So I'm not cranking it tight, I'm just slowly turning it to get that point in line with the hole. It might look like I'm cranking down real tight, but I'm not. All I'm doing is trying to turn it very slowly so one of the pointed ends points towards that hole. That's where I can now drop this on, and it'll line up. That's where I can drop on the screw. Using my Phillips screwdriver. Tighten her down. Alright, once you're done with that, make sure everything's working good. Alright. Alright. And that's it. And then it's if you're cleaning it, what I like to do is I'll get the line guide off to one of the ends. I'll have the magnetic brake all the way off, the spool tensioner loose, the drag all the way off. And I'll just like to kick the actual reel handle and see how smooth she actually flows. Alright, depending on the reel you have with how many bearings and whatnot, will indicate how many times that could possibly go back and forth. With the Black Max, I might get 2 to 3. Oops. Full rotations. Silver Max, Pro Max, I could get like 3 to 4, sometimes even 5. Alright, you guys. That completes the disassemble reassemble of the Abu Garcia Silver Max Gen 3. Thank you.